the grand end-of-the-century Great Exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few are aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the Crystal Tower itself, brought the truth to light.
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine. A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location. Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before. In but a few moments from now, this gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you!
This one! Yes! Whoa! Yes! No! Please! That's not what I wanted!
22nd of October, 9:36 a.m. Sholmes' suite. Bruno, are you listening? Sorry, what was that, Iris? What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast? No, that's not it at all. What were we talking about again? Today's paper. It's full of news about the Great Exhibition again. Oh yeah, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime. You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Early? Did you say something, Iris? Oh gosh, you're even more down. Wow! When did you arrive, Mr. Naruhodo? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together? What? Why didn't you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here, you know, because breakfast? Iris is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim, so much so that I didn't notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning, with all its unruly spikes. Clearly, it can be deduced, therefore, that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Thanks again. It crossed my mind recently that it's been 6 months now. 6 months? Since I was forbidden from working in court? So I've been wondering how much longer I'm gonna be banned. Oh, well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Early? Did you say something, Iris? Back to moping. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down in the dumps than me. Oh no, and the great exhibition is opened. You'd think he'd be excited. Oh, why don't we all go to see it together? I want to, of course I do. But I can't, not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective after all. So you're embroiled in some tricky case that you can't be distracted from. Is that it? I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Early. I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, about this... Shh, not another word. Ah, yes, I see. This would be a collar for a breed of miniature canine with a particularly long neck, and for winter use. Actually, it's the armband I always wear that symbolizes my role as a defense lawyer. Precisely, which leads us to but one conclusion. Your arm is in fact the particular long leg of a miniature canine. I'm starting to wish I'd never shown him this now. The man's barking mad. Alright, what do we have here? Some stuff. I could talk with my eyes shut, you know. I can believe it. When the deadline's approaching, you sound like a Gatling gun. That reminds me of a dream I had the other day. It was such a funny one. It woke me, actually. I was typing for a whole hour in the pitch black, but I didn't make a single mistake. That's incredible. But then, when it got light, I found that there wasn't any paper in the machine. Now I wonder if I'd actually been typing at all. I think you might just have fallen asleep on the job. Are we gonna have repeats? What about the board? Yes, this is where you note down ideas, isn't it, Iris? What's in the melting pot today? The blue carbuncle. Yeah, it's from a case of theft that Early solved ages ago. The theft of a precious stone. A carbuncle is another name for a garnet, you see. Especially if it's cut with a Ramsey top. Oh, really? And this garnet was blue, was it? Well, that's the thing. They're usually red. No blue garnets have ever been discovered. Oh. So who knows what the stolen gemstone actually was? That's the real mystery of the case. A proper Sherlock Holmes conundrum, huh? Yeah, we've heard all this stuff. I'm thinking it's not worth exploring. I do love a good fire in the colder months. Watching the flames flickering and dancing about is just so very relaxing. Cleaning out the chimney isn't so relaxing, though. No, getting covered in soot isn't my idea of fun. You know, Early decided he was going to clean it out himself last year. But you can guess what happened, can't you? He got himself stuck inside the flue. He's a very slim man, I admit, but there are limits to where a fully grown man can fit. Now every time he dozes off by the fire, he has nightmares about it. I'd bet. Okay, yeah, a lot of repeats. In that case, forget it then. We'll just talk to Sholmes. The whole of London has been swept up in this great exhibition, hasn't it? The most advanced science, the most modern technology, the finest work of art and feats of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing these things, and the whole world will be watching. Oh, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to look down on London from one of those lovely balloons. Look down on... Do you mean those things? Fly? Yeah, of course. They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings to do it. All you need is hot air. But how? How does hot air have anything to do with flying? It makes no sense. I can't understand it at all. That's true of a lot of new scientific discoveries. Most people can't understand them at first. But in 100 years' time, all these things will be just common knowledge. I suppose they might be. Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong on the open experimentation stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it though. I'd love to see how bad some of these scam experiments really are. Says the innocent 10-year-old girl. See here, every page of this paper carries some article or other about the great exhibition. But the brighter things shine, the darker the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I find myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That is my proper atmosphere. Okay. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back page of the paper? Alright. Let's look at this. Let's examine this further. Every article on the front page is news about the Great Exhibition. Public experiments to demonstrate brand new scientific ideas, cultural exhibits from around the globe. It's all so positive and hopeful about the coming century. We must all go to see it properly before too long. Okay. And the back of the page has... What the... So many glowing reports about the Great Exhibition and everything that's going on there. Other than this rather gloomy looking one, that is. Wait, what? What's the matter, Runa? The Reaper attacked? That's Lord Van Zeeks! This must be what Mr. Sholmes was talking about. Does he know any more, I wonder? The Reaper attacked. Lord Van Zeeks and compatriot cornered. Ruffians aim to intimidate a man of justice. King Christian the Eighth. Revenson Ruffling. What? Okay. Lost Cat. St. Bartholomew's. Huh. Lord Van Zeeks and compatriot. Who's the compatriot? Huh. Very strange indeed. What if we do this? Mr. Sholmes, about this. My dear fellow, without wishing to sound rude, I'm currently in the middle of a very important blink. Perhaps some other, more convenient time, Is there a set time for your important blinks, or are they an all-day affair? Just so I know. Oh, stop blinking now. It says in the paper that Lord Van Zeeks was attacked. That's terrible. You know the legend of the Reaper of the Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Yeah, Prosecutor Barak Van Zeeks. They say that if the Reaper is the prosecutor in a case, there is no salvation for whoever is in the dock. even if the defendant is found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights, one way or another, that person's time left on this earth will be short. London's finest rogues always find some ways around the law. They'll stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial, falsifying evidence, paying sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges. But even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hand of the Reaper. As you have experienced yourself, haven't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yeah, only once though, but I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of these criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among their fraternity is seen to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital has a never-ending supply of such scoundrels. So, do you mean Lord Van Zieks has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time? He is quite an accomplished combatant, you know. It doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my goodness, is he alright then? Is Lord Van Zieks hurt? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know? Well, in the article here it says, as to what of Lord Van Zieks and his condition, all will be revealed in tomorrow's morning edition. Ah, I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait until tomorrow. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. But who? Lord Strongheart, perhaps? Yeah, sure, why not? It's been a while. Half a year ago now, I took on the defense of a young girl in a trial heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place at a London pawnbrokery turned out to be one part of a much more far-reaching plot that involved the British government. During the course of the trial, it was found that I made an unavoidable yet at the same time unforgivable mistake. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord? I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I had to spend my time in research and study, so that's what I've been doing. You have, haven't you, Runa? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room, and the notes about Sholmes' old cases. Brewing Iris's special bins of tea, fetching my daily bread for me. You've become something of a manservant around here. Start on the silverware next, Master Naruhodo. Well, I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider, specifically Lord Strongheart, at the British Supreme Court on Whitehall. Lord Strongheart? Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice. Not my favorite fellow. He's not mine either, but he's the man I have to talk to. He's the only one who can grant permission for me to start working in the courts again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could, and I can't do that just sitting around here. Alright. Are you investigating a particularly tricky case at the moment, Mr. Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add? That's not like you. What sort of case is it? Shh! Quiet, Mr. Naruhodo. We must not discuss it here. You never know who might be listening. You're acting very strangely early. What do you mean, Iris? Well, usually, the more mysterious and complicated a case is, the better Early's mood. Is it really a case that's bothering you? Iris, please. You mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say. Put yourself in the shoes of the individual about whom you're making deductions. You say that, dear? You, Mr. Sholmes? Never mind. Once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my way at once to the crime scene. That was a deep sigh. Well, I must be leaving now. Yeah, understood. See you later, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, you really are a shameless liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off my guard and follow me, don't you? Well, you would be wasting your time. The thought hadn't crossed my mind. But now I'm wondering where you are going. Well then, see you later indeed. Yep, see it. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out of the door. Alright then, Reno, let's get going. Oh, Iris, what are you wearing? I've got change to go to the Great Exhibition. You're gonna take me. What? But I was just about to go to the Supreme Court. Oh, well that sounds fun too. You're gonna take me there then. Alright, fine. Just lower that weapon, would you? Of course. And after the Supreme Court, then we'll go to see the Great Exhibition. Alright. Let's go talk to Lord Strongheart. It's been about 6 months now since I was last here. But some things never change, like the sense of foreboding I always seem to feel in this place. It doesn't seem to be bothering Iris at all, though. She's happily reading over there. Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books here. Of course, I was forgetting that you've been here before. The time we came here 6 months ago. When Susato-san was given the news that she was to return to Japan. I understand you wish to speak with me. Lord Strongheart, I trust you've been keeping well. Let's see, since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies. No, not at all. I like nothing more than standing around staring into space. Good to know. Good to know that doesn't appear to bother him at all. Mail Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who allowed me to start practicing as a defense lawyer when I arrived in Britain as a student. You need only savor the air for a moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status. As you will be aware, the Great Exhibition of London is now underway at last. We're extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium. Oh, I've not heard about that. Investigating authorities from 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future. The world must embrace it. As we are the hosting nation, I have much to do, and it is my highest priority. If others must wait for my attention as a result, so be it. Well, it's nice to know where I stand. So, you wish to consult with me? Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, my lord. I want to be allowed to start working as a defense lawyer again in court. That's what brought me here today. But actually, there's something else playing on my mind as it happened. Right now, just take a deep breath and come out with it. Okay, so... Here you go. That reminds me. Have you seen this?
Reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition? Of course.
No, not that. The story on the back page.
What story?
You know.
The Reaper attacked. That. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not?
Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he?
There's no need for concern. Lord Van Zieks would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you.
Can you tell us what happened? I'd really love to know.
Very well, if it interests you.
It does. Strangely. By the way, Lord Strongheart, about this.
The symbol of a defense lawyer in the Japanese judiciary.
I didn't expect you to know that.
We never accept foreign students before first researching the legal systems of their home countries. But such trinkets are merely for show. The only true measure of your worth is your performance in court.
Yeah, right. Alright. So. I actually came here today to ask for your permission.
Go on.
6 months ago, my right to work in court as a lawyer was revoked, and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened, but the thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system. And I desperately want to have another go. Please, permit me to enter the courtroom again.
Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes? Here it comes.
I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriot. This was never your intended role.
Well, that's true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend on the study tour, not me. It should have been Kazuma. He was so determined to bring change to our own justice system at home. That was his calling. If that tragic accident hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in this office now. Mr. Asogio is my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I have to fulfill his calling for him.
His calling, you say? Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling?
Sorry?
The mission with which that young law student was charged. What do you suppose it really was?
What do you mean? Mission? He's not making any sense.
Never mind. I've read all the reports you've submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me that you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions.
Do you mean...
As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's wonderful news, Reno.
In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope.
But, of course. Please, tell me more. You described it as a curious affair?
Yes, that's right. I believe it was reported in the press. Are you aware that there was a serious accident at the Great Exhibition yesterday?
No. Yeah, I read about a professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment. Let me see. How was it described? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Kinesis, I think. Instantaneous kinesis, as in moving things with the click of the fingers? That's right. It's just what my herbal blend need. Herbal blends need a dash of devil may care. Whatever the serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination.
It's an unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage, and the man lost his life. A certain Mr. O.D. Asman, an inventor and well-known figure in society.
A large explosion? A man died?
The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Harebrain. He was detained immediately after the incident and is due to appear in court tomorrow on the charge of murder.
What? Murder?
If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There is very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation.
The Great Exhibition. A scientific experiment gone wrong. And murder. I feel out of my depth before I even started. Still, we should go to the prison straight away then and try to meet with this German professor. Don't you think? Definitely.
Yes, one more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper.
With Lord Van Zeeks? How?
Fortunately, Lord Van Zeeks emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He is a very capable fighter.
But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. What was he attacked, though? Do we know?
It's related to events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Van Zeeks. But the man was acquitted. I have no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes.
Large sums of money?
A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday.
But you're not suggesting that was the work of the Reaper, surely?
The victim's henchmen certainly seemed to think so. He was a man by the name of Asman, Mr. O.D. Asman.
Did you say Asman? That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exhibition.
Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality, the head of a significant criminal organization.
Unbelievable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongheart?
Try me.
Why do you use Lord Van Zeeks as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with a mysterious end outside the courtroom. And fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord Van Zeeks first. I know there's no evidence that he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still, something's clearly going on here.
I have Van Zeeks work for the prosecution service for two reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him.
But that doesn't make sense. How can he explain the way so many have died, if not by someone's hand?
Van Zeeks may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course.
Alright then.
All sorts of conferences have been taking place around the world to coincide with the Great Exhibition. And next month, the largest and most important of them all will take place at last. the International Forensic Science Symposium.
It does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it?
Exactly! London, the global epicenter of culture, science, and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similar startling rate. So it's imperative that we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible.
Which is what's known as forensic science, isn't it?
Exactly! The future of policing. Regrettably, however, Britain is currently dragging its feet when it comes to the adoption of forensic methods.
Oh dear, that's alarming.
Exactly! It's extremely alarming. If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you can be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. And I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reasons to support my claim.
Sorry?
By way of apology for keeping you waiting earlier, I should detail everyone now.
What? Oh, how fascinating.
It all began 15 years ago. I was... And that more or less sums up my feeling on the matter, in the simplest of terms, of course. Essentially, to formally establish a forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission.
Oh, right, yes, that's wonderful.
Exactly. Wonderful is precisely what it will be.
Iris isn't paying attention at all. She's got her nose in another book now. Oh, is it Elva? Did you learn anything useful? I actually drifted off for the most part. He's surprisingly ardent about forensic science.
Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget.
11 hours late? That's quite something.
That meaning I'd already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man.
I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments and 223 reasons. Oh, yeah, where would I find Lord Van Zeeks now?
I would assume he's at his office.
Right, I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth.
Away with you now. I am leaving Professor Hairbrain's defense entirely in your hands.
Of course, yeah. Thank you very much, my lord. Alright. Time to go. You couldn't read all these books even if you were reincarnated 3 times over. As a bookworm. Oh, I know. So much reading material. I'm very envious. I've really been running out of things to read recently. That's because you read so fast. Perhaps little by little I could swap some of the books here with some of mine from home. I don't see why not. No one would notice, or at least I wouldn't, even if I was reincarnated 3 times over as a librarian. The cogs of the giant clock are keeping time as usual with their steady rhythmical motion. It's really quite disturbing how little sound they make considering their massive size. Someone very brilliant must have designed it, and whoever maintains it must be very talented too. But I'm not entirely convinced it's even a clock. What? But what about the huge clock face that forms the window over there? Some people just make machines that move for the fun of it, because they enjoy watching them. Rather like how Erlen makes his rambling deductions just for the fun of it. Even if the outcome isn't quite right. Never mind all the trouble it gets others into along the way. Oh, I've just had a great idea. What is it? We could hide inside these suits of armor and spy on the fob watch master to find out what he's really like. I don't have much interest in what Lord Strongheart is really like, though. Oh, please, it would be fun. You could be inside the left one, and I'll go in the right. You really want to You really want to have a go in a suit of armor, don't you? Now you're making fun of me because I'm a child, aren't you? I wasn't making fun of you at all. I'd like to have a go, too. The Lord Chief Justice's desk. When you look at that, there's no mistaking Lord Strongheart's authority, is there? But the light from that window behind is far too bright. It would be very bad for the eyes. I hadn't thought of that. There are no curtains, that's for sure. What's more important, having a desk with an air of authority, or having eyes that work? I can't say I'd ever considered it. After all, my little office barely has any light to speak of, and I haven't really seen my desk in a while. Alright. Is that it? Are we done here? Yeah, I think so. Alright. To prison or to prosecutor office? Let's go to the prison first. The warden said cell 11. That's this one. Oh, there's someone curled up in a bowl in the back corner, look. What's his name again? Professor Albert Hairbrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Hairbrain? Who are you? I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a defense lawyer. A lawyer? Was it something I said? Hey, lawyer, you say? Would you be here about the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis? Your hypothesis? Sorry, I don't... Yesterday's demonstration! The demonstration was... That magnificent demonstration was... It was an out-and-out success by anyone's calculations. But despite that... No one listens. No lawyer believes in science when it explains they all live at high velocity. Now is probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while too. Alright. You mentioned the demonstration yesterday? The Pipers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, a man died in an explosion, didn't he? Yeah, you could interpret the results that way if you really wanted to. Well, I suppose in the strictest sense, the experiment was a failure. But at the same time, it was a great success. You've lost me. I saw it with my own eyes, right there in front of me. Mr. Osman was spontaneously disassembled. Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations had predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the crystal tower by instantaneous kinesis. However, the machine exploded and Mr. Osmond in fact perished. Yeah, I can't deny that part of the experiment was a failure. So what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Mr. Osmond was an accident, correct? But the Bakeways had you arrested on suspicion of murder. I was responsible for a man's death. That is the immutable truth here. And for that I wish to be punished. At once! But murder? Never in a million years. It was an accident. Simply an accident. I see. Early and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or a murder. How exactly? Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody. On what grounds? Yeah, it's newly established here in Britain. The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. That one passed me by. But if the case is treated as murder, then they'll say my machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pour over it as much as they like. If they examine it in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My precious hypothesis will be stolen. The machine must be protected from that at all costs. That's why it's imperative this whole accident is shown to have been an accident in tomorrow's trial. Ah, I see now. So in short, there was a terrible accident at the Great Exhibitions showground yesterday. Yeah! No, the devil is in the details. Strictly speaking, there was a terrible explosion. Sounds the same to me. You were demonstrating super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating. Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So it must be possible using a sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's it in a nutshell. That is my idea, you see. That is my amazing hypothesis. Gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science. Oh, but dare to imagine it, dare to dream of such incredible technology. Just think, one moment I could be here in this cell, and the next, I could be at the Great Exhibition again. Well, yeah, that would be incredible. And the next, in the mere blink of an eye, I could be at the Great Parisian Theatre, say. The possibilities are endless. The whole of this planet would be within reach. So no more hiding in wardrobes on rocky seas for 50 days? I don't really see it like that. What do you mean, Iris? Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think you would feel like it had shrunk. My word, that's exactly right. What are the implications? What does this mean? Oops, that's got Professor Bunny Bryan really worried by the look of it. Clearly this is yet another case of just because you can doesn't mean you should, I suppose. The point is, my calculations are flawless. This science works. But without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. And that's always the fly in the ointment. Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money. Money that young scientists like you don't have. That's exactly it, yeah. He's always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science. Well, anyway, I bumped into him at the right time. I met the well-known investor, Mr. Osmond. The victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The full name of the man who died in yesterday's accident was Mr. O.D. Osmond, wasn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man? He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I sang to my lucky stars. I see. So we hadn't really known each other until then. Money for scientific research? I'm so envious. As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel. Oh, really? An archangel even. He was prepared to run the practical demonstration of my hypothesis of representation at the Great Exhibition. And if that failed, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. Mr. Osmond provided me with money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications. But then your dreams were blown to dust in one enormous explosion. As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Osmond. I would never, ever have thought of taking the man's life. Well, he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying. So, what do you think of this? How could this have happened? You must feel awful. As well as a man losing his life, the crystal tower was greatly damaged too. I know what happened. It must have been that. That? But the day before the demonstration, I had my usual meal of frankfurters at the hotel restaurant. When I paid the bills, they gave me 3 shillings too much in change. But instead of saying anything, I just slipped the coins into my pocket. They're still there now. It's divine retribution for my wrongdoing. That's what this is. For a scientist, he has some very illogical anecdotes. Long and illogical. Alright, what about this? Fierce knitting, yeah. In Japan, where I come from, it's simple of a defense lawyer. In Japan, where I come from, it's the symbol of a defense lawyer. Wearing it is very bracing, I find. Your words make some sense to me, but they are entirely illogical. What do you mean? Well, for example, I find this white laboratory coat that I wear for my work very bracing too. However, in my case, there's a perfectly logical reason for that feeling. Oh, really? What is it? I purchased the wrong size by mistake. This one is too small for me. The sleeves especially are extremely bracing. I could barely move my wrists. Oh, that's what you call logical, is it? Of course, it's entirely logical. That's science, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh. Well, we've talked about everything, and we gave him everything, so I guess we'll leave him for now, and we'll go check on Van Zeeks. See what he's up to. From one German to the other. Oh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office? Yeah, it appears so. Brr, it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere. Oh, is it? That hooded figure was so still, I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is.
What are you doing here?
He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well.
I am.
So, who's the person over by the wall being punished for something or other?
No punishment is taking place here.
Oh.
That's my apprentice, and he's sitting there of his own free will.
I didn't know you had an apprentice. It must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper.
He's very able in combat, a requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage.
Are you referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers?
The Reaper. I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself. Assuming that is such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms.
So, Lord Strongheart said that the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack?
True, carried out by henchmen of Odiasman's criminal organization. The investigation meant their arrests were imminent. Presumably some hoped to kill me before that happened.
Odiasman.
He's always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor. But his enormous wealth came to him by underhand means, via his criminal activities.
And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper.
But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was a most unusual cause of death.
I know about that. It was super high voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong. Mr. Asman died when the demonstration on the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion.
Correct. And do you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen? Do you?
Well, no, that does seem a little far-fetched. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be the innocent of this particular death at least. It's strange how this has worked out, isn't it, Runa? I mean, what with you taking on the Professor's defense for the trial, Damara?
What? You going to be defending him?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Though I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest.
Albert Hairbrain.
That's right. Do you know him by any chance?
Of course. He is a contemporary of mine. We were at university together.
You're... what? Really? I understood that Professor Hairbrain was from Germany, though.
Hairbrain's from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research, that's all.
So you were students together?
I was in the faculty of law, of course, and he in science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, so I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him.
Oh, only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems.
Yes, I know, because the prosecution will be handled by me.
By you? But you made it sound as if you and the professor had been friends.
We are friends, it's true.
Then why would you do this? If the Reaper is a prosecutor, there's nothing anyone can do to save him. He's doomed. What's Lord Van Zeek's thinking? What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean...
I am a crown prosecutor and a mortal like any other. I am no demigod.
But they've all died, haven't they? The people you've prosecuted, I mean? Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal.
Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who, without question, deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them.
But that's not true of Mr. Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch at all. Nor was Jenny. In fact, she's ever so hard-working now.
I can't deny that since I encountered you, Things have taken a turn, but the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It is not my work.
Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. But you were attacked by those ruffians because they believe it's true.
The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially.
Oh,
It would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives.
do you mean to say...
I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves as a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor.
But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed.
If that is my fate, let God decide.
Lord Van Zeeks. Alright then. There we go. I know you've seen this around my arm before, but...
What is it exactly?
It's the mark of a defense lawyer. In Japan, at least.
And what's your reason for showing it to a British prosecutor?
Oh, well, I don't know, really.
I can understand at least. There's merit in reminding yourself who helped you become what you are today.
Oh.
But that is a personal matter. Something you may want to keep close at all times. Not something to flaunt.
No, I suppose not. Thank you for understanding, though. Alright, what about this? Lord Van Zeeks, about the article in this paper.
Yes, it seems there was a report nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea it had been photographed. It was careless of me.
It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had ran away, though.
Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them.
There's someone else fighting alongside you, it seems. And I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it?
As I mentioned already, he is my apprentice.
Perhaps you could tell us a little more about him? Go on, Van Zeeks, tell us.
He is in my tutelage to become a prosecutor. So you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose.
Ah, you are too early then, Rena. I don't remember taking an apprenticeship with a great detective.
He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack.
It looks like he's wearing some kind of mask.
On Lord Strongheart's orders. Nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity.
But why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual?
Lord Strongheart's orders again. He is not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions.
I hope you're right.
The task is complete? Good. In that case, you can collate all the briefs.
Nice to meet you. Back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet... somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter.
Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside his office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it.
Oh, I see.
Why are you so interested in my apprentice anyway?
Oh, no, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to... The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture... It couldn't be.
Ah, yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
That Nepalese man, is he faring well?
Sorry?
The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago. With the stoop, and the moustache, and the jitters.
Oh, Mr. Natsume, you mean? Oh, I'm not sure he'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Runo. He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day.
I see. Well, I think we can end our discussions there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case.
Yes, thank you for the advice and for the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Sasaki-san. After a Nipponese. I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried. Oh, never imagined that Mr. Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did ya? That's a turn up for the books. A mad scientist? Ah, you mean Professor Hairbrain? Yeah, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Van Zeeks, I think. I would love to do that, but first, we gotta take a look at this place. I mean, come on. Look at all the stuff here. Let's see. Look at that fine collection of hollow chalices and bottles neatly lined up there.
My hollowed bottles are filled with the essence of the finest grapes from the finest vineyards I visit. And I personally oversee these chalices being made by the finest crystal craftsmen in the world.
And yet you throw them around in court like they were worthless.
Yes, because this imbecile is so unimaginably and repeatedly wide of the mark sometimes.
Oh!
Before you open your mouth next time, you should consider the poor artisans whose work you defile.
So it's my fault? Silly me. How could I have ever thought otherwise? Lord Van Zeek's desk, look. It's so stylish. And that's a marble chess set beside it. Chess. That's the Western version of our Japanese shogi game, isn't it? You know, I'm actually quite good at shogi problems. Oh, really? You'd probably like chess problems in that case. I'd love to challenge Lord Van Zeek sometime to a bout of shogi problems. If you only really want to challenge yourself, you can always do that on your own at home. No comment about the swords. That's strange. Okay. Some books, more books. Oh, look! It's a scale model of the Great Exhibition Showground. That's amazing. I wonder why it's here. Perhaps he made it to take his mind off the sadness of being too busy to attend in person. Or perhaps he's too embarrassed to queue up for a ticket.
Surely it's obvious that I'm using it as investigative aid. You Nipponese have no business pitting us as overly reserved.
Oh, I really didn't think he'd overhear that. Investigative aid, huh? It's one expensive investigative aid. That portrait really dominates the room, doesn't it? It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly, whoever painted it didn't do a very good job of capturing Lord Van Zeek's facial features. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not far off, but the artist has exaggerated his subject's handsomeness, I think. That reminds me. I heard Emperor Napoleon of France ordered artists to make him look more attractive when they painted him. How vain. That's really not an attractive quality in a person, is it?
That portrait does not depict me. Surely that's immediately obvious.
Oh, then who is it? Your father? Okay. No answer. There's a lot of similarities, so I'm guessing it's your father, or... It'll be weird if it's your brother. I'm guessing it's your father. It has to be your father. Alright. Look at all those ancient casks lining the wall there. Casks in the Reaper's chamber? Or are they caskets? You don't think all those people who escaped conviction in court are lying inside them dead? Do you?
What ridiculous notions are going through your head, man? This is my collection of fine vintages.
Oh, yeah, of course. Vintages. Thank you for clearing that up. Runa and I were just musing to ourselves. Don't mind us, Mr. Reaper.
I wouldn't if you hadn't invited yourselves to my office to talk nonsense within my earshot.
It really looks like a punishment to me. I've never seen someone sitting like that before. He hasn't moved a muscle since we arrived. Do you think perhaps he's dead? If he was dead right now, he wouldn't be sitting up, would he? Well, anyway, dead or alive, he's not overly approachable, is he? I don't think he's gonna talk to us. He's not dead. Oh! Wow! Those were bats! Yeah, the Reaper's familiars, I expect. What about the mute man in the dark cloak? I thought he was the familiar. Just not the flying kind. He must be a dear friend of Mr. Reaper, then. I think the familiar idea is more likely. Scary, though. Either way. Scary. You're not gonna tell us about who that portrait is of, huh? I'm sure it's gonna come up in the court later. Somehow, some way. Alright. Going back to prison. Talking to the professor about Lord Van Zeeks. I understand Lord Van Zeeks is a friend of yours from your university days? Yeah, that's right. He was studying law whilst I was studying science. What was he like back then? A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, an all-round nice fellow, really. Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor Barak Van Zeeks. What was he like when he was at university? Talk about a leading question right now. As I said, an unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Van Zeeks family, with all its great aristocratic origins. I didn't realize he had quite such noble blood. Little darling. It was a bit of a shock when I came to Britain and learned what he'd become. The Reaper of the Bailey, no less. Yeah, that's right. I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation. Really? What sort of event? I'm sorry, but I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already. Oh, yeah, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Van Zeeks will be the prosecutor in court tomorrow. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. The huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying? You had no intent to harm the victim, who was in fact the sole investor in your work? Is that correct? As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it. Yeah, it's true that the man perished in a machine of my invention. So I know that I'm far from blameless in all this, but still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a person's life. Not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of truth, you know. I've always believed that, all my life. I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories, but I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court. Alright, right now, it's time. Time to visit the Great Exhibition. Sorry? Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it? Yeah, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. Alright. See you later, Professor.